know really what happened. Yeah, okay, it's coming now. Yeah. It's coming, okay. Yes, it's coming. Okay. It's opening? Yes, it's open now. Okay, super. Okay. Can you try to join and see? Yeah, I'm joining right now. I clicked on the... Okay, great, yes. Okay, please wait. Okay, I get you. I got Tamale. Okay, good. Super. Wow, okay.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. I was struggling with this machine here, so but it's coming now.
Oh. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, let's see.
I can see people are coming. Hello, Alfred.
Hello. 7 people. Admit.
I had to escape from another meeting.
For another meeting, yes. So many meetings, you know, zooming. We are zombies now, all, you know. Do you have zombies in Scotland too?
Yes, soon busy.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Good to see you. Hi, Charles. Good to see you.
Hi, Vivek.
How are you?
You're here.
Very, very nice to see you.
The one, you know,
my pleasure too.
Yeah, really nice. Yeah.
How are things?
Yeah, okay. We are watching as things unfold.
Gosh.
Yeah, quite tough.
Yeah.
But
it's a bit tough, huh?
The same old ritual.
It seems a little bit more hectic this time, though.
No, it's the same, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Let's see, participants. Can you guys, everyone, you can mute and then have the photo, have the video. We want to see your faces. Thank you. Let me just check my telephone here if someone is trying to reach or something. Okay, let me admit someone here. You just wait a few more minutes. Okay, maybe just let's start from top, from Gamali, and say hello and tell us where you are sitting. Are you in Edinburgh or in Glasgow or what? And then we go around just while we wait a bit for the others to come. Gamali, unmute. Yes.
You know, I always do this. I start speaking before I realize I've done it.
You are not the only, we are all learning, you know, we didn't learn this at the schools, you know. There were not even telephones that time.
Yeah, so my name is Gamali Tojro. I am not sitting in Ghana, I'm sitting in Glasgow, in a place called Pollock. Yeah, so I work in the University of Glasgow, the School of Education. Yeah, I just escaped from a UNESCO meeting preparing a presentation for the UNESCO Arts Lab for the 10th this month. Yeah, so they're preparing a presentation on cultural justice, and I'm just inputting the aspect of first person narrative as a way of looking at policy and policy development and cultural justice.
Great. Yes. Excellent. Yes. Okay, let's go down to Bichachi. Rebecca said I should call you Bichachi, not Charles. Yes, this is European name.
Thank you. Yeah, Bichachi, many people find it an easier name.
Okay.
I am Charles Bichachi. I'm sitting in Kampala, Uganda. Great. And yeah, we are in the middle, we are in the thick of an election. And we are seeing, this is a very, very good discussion at this point in time because we are right in the middle of it. It's my pleasure to be part of this discussion. I am the public editor for the Nation Media Group in Uganda. Nation Media is the regional media organization based in Nairobi. It's covering Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda. And so I speak for the public on journalism for the Ugandan public, so to speak.
Great. It's really, really great. I can see Amos here. Can you introduce yourself, Amos?
Okay. Good.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amos, and I work with the Ghana Community Radio Network as a programs officer. And yeah, I've been working with on crossing borders related projects for the last 6 years. Before with Yes Ghana, and then currently with the Ghana Community Radio Network. We also just are part of a new consortium that Crossing Borders has put together, and we currently won the funding to continue a project that's going to take place in the next 24 months. So that's a bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Rebecca?
Yes, I'm Vibeke Cote. I'm the board chair of Crossing Borders. Well, I know Bichachi. We used to work together in Uganda, where I was working for 5 years, and latest with UNDP during the last election, where I was at the Electoral Commission in Uganda. So I'm really excited to hear what everyone have to say here, because this is like, yeah, it's very interesting to my ears.
Great, thank you. Yes, Alfred, I can see that there.
Thank you, Gaba. My name is Alfred Tamaklo, a freelance journalist. I'm here in Denmark, Copenhagen, and I'm also involved in Crossing Borders. Before coming to Denmark, I used to work for 2 publications in Ghana, the Ghanaian Times, and the Weekly Spectator. So yeah, and in 2008, I got some funding from the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs to cover the elections in Ghana for one of the newspapers here called Christly Dagblad, or the Christian Daily. Because of COVID, you know, travel restrictions, so I would have loved to go back and cover the election this year, but that's not possible. So we discuss it online.
Thank you very much, Alfred. Cornelius, it's good to see you here. Last time, a long time before COVID age of the COVID, we met in Accra at the Ghana Community Radio. I think it was 18th of February. Please introduce yourself. I think you are muted.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Garba. I'm sorry. I'm here in my personal capacity, you know.
Okay.
But I work for Third World Network Africa, which is an NGO, which works on finance, international trade, finance in Africa, among others. So, but all the same, I'm here, strictly speaking, in my personal capacity, so I don't want to go into that bit. So I'm speaking as a media person because I head the communications of the Third World Network Africa. So I edit a magazine called African Agenda. So I know quite a bit about what happens in the media in Ghana, the elections and all that. You know, Ghana is also having its elections on Monday, and a lot of things are happening. So I hope to contribute my bit to this panel. So let me just end there for now.
Okay, excellent. Can you put your video so that people see how young you are?
You see, I didn't know this was going to happen. So I'm not speaking from a position where I would like you to see where I am. So
okay. Okay. Now we know that you are not a yellow man anymore because the people who live at the school say this is a yellow man, you know, the Jamaican yellow man. Okay, great. Yeah, we have our brother, what you call Dion, what is called Dion in it's French. I mean, the head of the diplomatic, the oldest in the diplomatic mission. What do you call them? The dean of the media, Kojo Yanka. Please welcome.
Thank you, Garcia. Yeah, I'm here on your invitation. I'm a retired practicing journalist, although I still write for magazines and other newspapers, but I'm a retired founder and past president of the African University College of Communications in Ghana. I used to be director of the Ghana Institute of Journalism. And so journalism is in my blood. And so I'm observing whatever is going on around me, whether I am active or passive. I'm doing a whole lot of other things, but I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you very much for taking the time. But you are retired now, so you are free to be exploited all over the place. But you are not tired at all. You know?
No, not at all.
Okay. Great. There are some people that I don't know, Cuthbert or Tilesford. Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, I live in Denmark. I'm an American.
Okay.
So, I've never actually lived in Africa, but I'm African American. Okay. So I saw that you're having this, and so I just thought I'd join in as an observer, essentially. So thank you for letting me join it. Listen.
Great. You are most welcome. Please, actually, it would be nice if you have the videos, because it's good to see the people, you know, instead of just seeing black window there. Rute Moro Zeite. Can you introduce yourself? Good to see you, Cuthbert. Yeah. Okay, the next speaker, Rute, can you introduce yourself? Hello.
Sorry?
Yeah, can you introduce yourself?
Yes.
Want to put the video would be nice.
Yes. Yes. 1 second.
Okay, good.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
So while I'm a student here at Roskilde University, I'm originally from Lithuania. Came just to study here in Denmark. I'm interested in politics in general, and actually Africa as a region is still, for me, widely unknown, actually, as a European maybe, or just as a Lithuanian. So for me, it's an interest to hear more, and just to follow up on politics in general, and then some problems. So I'm very glad for this this discussion.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Please keep the videos. Cornelius, would you like to keep your video on? Oh, no, you said that it was not. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Is there anyone that I have not seen hiding somewhere in the Zoom things? Anyone who has not? Okay. Yeah, my name is Garba Jallo. I am actually originally from West Africa, from Mauritania, a country that is not much known, like Ghana or Uganda or some other interesting countries. But I live in Denmark. Last 28 years, I've been living here in Denmark, working here, and also founding Crossing Borders, and also doing all kinds of things. But I've been to many of the African countries in connection with some of our projects, especially Ghana. So I have a very short presentation. I'll tell you a little bit about Crossing Borders, and then also, but I would like to check, because we have two other friends who should have been here. Aissata Sankara from Burkina Faso. I've not seen her. And then we have Ernst Chanda from Zambia. They are both speakers, but I don't see them here. I will check a little bit with my email if they have written something here. Then, but we will continue discussing. One thing is that I can see there are not many people here, but we plan to, what you call it, streamline this. And also at the same time, we will, this is recorded and we will disseminate it through our social media. So a lot of people will hear about this. So if you allow me, then I will share a screen. I have a little bit here about the meeting today. So this is, this is the topic. Can you see? Can you see the screen? Screen sharing?
Yeah, it's good. It's
okay.
Good.
So the whole idea is, to explore or look at the implications of election violence in Africa. I mean, as you say that we are having soon elections in Ghana on Monday, and there have been elections all over the place, from Guinea to Cote d'Ivoire, to many places. And many of these elections end up being really, really violent because no one wants to lose or accept to lose. And we seem even to be exporting these ideas now to the US, where they don't even, Trump doesn't want to lose things. Yeah. So it's a problem because elections is not a consensus that we do like we used to do in the good old days in Ghana, 4 presidents could share, one chair, and chasing each other and taking, So it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. So I don't know why. Is it Sometimes, as an African, I even dare to ask, is this genetic? Is in our DNA that we always fight and kill each other, at elections, and that president cannot just finish their terms and retire peacefully and stay as a nice, big, respected old state women or men. It happened in few cases. I think the first one to do it was Senghor, and then Julius Nyerere, and then Kenneth Kaunda. And of course, recently some people have been doing that, like Obasanjo and so on. They are called elder men, and they are doing really, really great, But we have now new guys who don't want to give up power. They want to stay forever, So it's a problem. Therefore, we have this fantastic panel of experts who will share with us their knowledge and perspectives. Let me just check here. Okay, yes, here. So there are a few questions I put. What are the root causes of the problem with the elections in Africa? Is there any link between the origin of the African state structure and the election crisis? 2, what are the short, medium, and long-term implications of this sad situation? What role the education system and the media play in these challenges? And what are the possible solutions to the problem? Yeah. So before that, I just very quick do some a little bit propaganda to tell you that these beautiful people who are joining us tonight, the two on the top left have not arrived yet. Maybe there is some traffic jam in the Zoom. But you can see this Ernest Chanda from on the top left is from Zambia. He's a senior reporter there. And the female there is Aisata Sankara. I think all Africans know the name Sankara is a holy name. It's, when we think about Thomas Sankara. So last year she was chosen as the best female reporter in Burkina Faso. So she's on TV, on radios and media and so on. And here we have our dean, media dean, and also former MP, Kojo Yanka, who's sitting here. We have Charles Bisasi, also as a veteran and dean from Uganda, who's here with us. And we have Gamali, who's a not only multimedia, but multi-talented films, whatever you imagine anything about media, he has a finger there. He even passed it to his sons who are making very, very, very exciting films now about issues in Africa, about, really about social issues. So we look forward to it. Let's see here. Then a little bit about crossing borders. Actually, what we do is to educate people, educate as much as possible, but educate in these life skills, social skills, cultural skills, so that we see the connection between people, to that no matter where we come from, we are from the same race and we share the same planet and we share all the good things in the world. We find it diverse, love, kindness, hospitality, all these, talent, intelligence, all these are actually distributed democratically. But the other things like money, power, they are monopolized by a few people on the top of many people. So we want people really to be, young people to be active global citizens. And then here, this is it's a non-profit organization that was founded in 1999, and with the vision of world in peace with itself, in which diversity is celebrated through many activities. Then here, the mission is actually, we just want to create space for dialogue, and we try to do it actually by walking the talk. We don't spray our website and our publication with Black kids and or poor Asian kids, and you go to the office, you don't see anyone looking like that. exactly the people you find on our website are the one you find in the office and in our board, in our advisory board, and in our activities. So we try to walk the talk when we talk about diversity. And then also we find that it's very, very important to build the capacity of young people, especially how to communicate, how to work together, and how to co-create with other young people. And then we also have educators and teachers as our own target group, because they are the ones who are educating the young people for global citizenship. So some of the values: diversity, inclusion, and authenticity. For example, we have school services. We go to schools and talk about racism, equality, or inequality, and all these key current issues. We send the people who are part of the stories. We don't send academic expert to go and talk about something that they have never experienced. So this is our team. You can see where the people, they are very diverse. And I'm happy to work with so many young people, from Syria to India, UK, Italy, Japan, Spain, Croatia, Cyprus, US, partly also Lithuanian, Brazil, Kenya, Denmark, UK, India, US, China, Denmark, me, I'm the global, Palestine, Lebanon, Denmark, Serbia, Denmark, Chile, Spain, Germany, Gambia, the one, was there. This is Gambia, Denmark. So these are the people you find in the office. And then our board also is very diverse. So these are our program. We do a lot of trainings. And then we have global studies where young people come and stay for 4 or 6 months, living together, studying and working together under the same roof. We have many events, especially something called Food for Thought, where we combine 2 things that all people love, food and the stories, and discuss. And then we have online courses. And then we have also something called Action Hub. It's a social entrepreneurship project. And recently we've been chosen or elected as the coordinating organization of the Anna Lindh Foundation, which is a Euro-Med or Euro-Mediterranean foundation based in Egypt, but grouping 42 countries around Euro-Mediterranean. So currently we have 25 projects, and we finished more than 75 projects. All over, you can just see here a little bit. We have school workshops, trainings, and things. And then we have global studies, long and short courses. Here, these are some of our projects, some of our activities, event that I mentioned already. The Action Hub, which is young people coming once a week, discussing and sharing ideas and generating or developing ideas, project ideas. These are some of our projects. We are running about 24 projects, 7 of them in Africa, 4 in Caucasus, and the rest across Europe, including Greenland and Iceland, and also the Sami indigenous people in Norway. These are also some of the projects, including Zambia, Ghana, Uganda, Sierra Leone, and so on. Yeah, these are some of the new projects that we are running. Let's just, we have 50 national coordinators representing crossing borders in 50 different countries, from very small ones like the Maldives to big ones like China, US, and so on. Yeah. And here is where we are involved in project currently, about 32 countries. We have partners in running project. And here we have our late patron, Zinzi Mandela, who was here and visited crossing borders many times before she went back and passed away in July this year. She's a famous Danish Kurdish writer. She is our ambassador of goodwill, and she's also helping a lot about crossing borders. yes, we have this, our experience, 20 years of excellent track record and different things you can see here. And then, you know, expertise, quality, and so on. Our photo won the Danish fund under the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This year we won the photo, that photo I took a few years ago, which is about collaboration, where people from different countries here collaborating to put this pen into that bottle. So we got a little bit more than 2,000 euro winning this photo. So if you want to join the family of crossing borders, because we are all crossing borders, especially now in this time of Zoom. Last night at this time, yesterday, we were having the same thing with people from Caucasus and Eastern Europe. So let me just end sharing. Okay, I'm sharing here. I'm not so much use this. Yeah, stop sharing, yes. Yes, so I just suggest now we go alphabetically, or maybe we just decide to choose to get each one to talk about 5 to 7 minutes about the implications of election violence in Africa. Especially, I mean, now, hi, Sebastian, good to see you here. Yeah, we know that many of these countries, some of them are even old, like Ghana, you know. But most African countries now have been independent for 60 years. I think it should, why should it take more than 60 years to learn how to put a cross on something like this and put it in, stick into a little box and then open it and count. And often we also have pictures, who's a picture of whom, and put the pictures and then count it after that. Why we become like the US, no, or Florida, or now Michigan and all these countries. So actually I would like to invite our Dean Kojo Yanka to share his experience, because you followed all these elections, you know, since 1958, you know. Yeah, please.
Yes, thank you, Gaba. I first would like to say, you know, direct to answer to your question, that election violence halts development, and it takes a country back several years. But if you want us to look at the historical antecedents of this, you know, most of countries in Africa emerged out of colonialism. And most of the countries that emerged out of colonialism started with mass movements. And the mass movements therefore turned themselves into political parties. So you'll find across the continent that there were a lot of single party, you know, or one party states on the continent. It is historical, because they came out of colonialism with agitation and movements and all that. And so the dominant party became, the dominant movement became the party of the day. So, and we should not forget that the 60s, the 70s somehow, and even some part of the 80s, were all occupied in Africans were caught in the Cold War. They were caught in the Cold War between East and West. And most of the countries that emerged from colonialism had more sympathies with the East than with the West, because most of the colonial countries were in the West. So you found that most of the countries that emerged became one-party states. And it took time. It was when the Soviet Union cracked in the 80s. and democracy became a catchword in Africa, that a lot more countries now decided to go multi-party. Or even if they didn't decide, there was pressure because of the collapse of the Soviet Union. There was pressure on African countries to open up for more parties, if you can call it, Western democratization. So that's what happened. So in Ghana, for example, we had Kwame Nkrumah until 1966, when he was overthrown and there were military governments one after the other. We were still not very clear which way we were going in terms of democracy. So it was not until after Jerry John Rawlings, intervened in 1979, came back in 1982, and then a lot of questions kept being asked. Which way are we going to go? Are we just going to allow one-party state, or we are going to allow the military to come in different forms? So in 1992, the government set up a committee to go around the country to ask people, what type of government would you want? Now that we are going to go back to constitutional rule, what type of government do you want? And the referendum in 1992 showed clearly that majority, over 60%, said we want to do multi-party system. So it was based upon that a constitution was drawn across board to now express the will of the people in the constitution. Now, so once the constitution allowed multi-party, then it opened the door for those who are interested in forming parties to come on board. This affected definitely the media landscape, because if you are in a one-party state, the dominant feature of a one-party state is one voice, the government voice, until you open up and you democratize that you have other voices coming through. So this came through for us in Ghana, but because of the experience that we have had over the years, since Kwame Nkrumah, we had tasted one-party state, we had tasted a two-party state, we had tasted the military governments. So when Rawlings came in to now kind of settle the scores and decided to return the country to multi-party democracy, a lot more things happened. And I'm saying this because I want us to take it also in historical context. By 1988, when the Soviet Union started crumbling, 89, 90, it was no longer fashionable to talk about a one-party state. So 1992, 1993, the agitation for more parties to be involved in decision-making also started. And this didn't affect only Ghana, it affected other countries in various parts of Africa. Now, you can find that a country like South Africa came in very late because of their, apartheid system. But therefore, the movement, the dominant movement, which is currently the majority, in parliament, dictated the pace. But you can see that over time, more political parties are entering the scene because we are in a period where it is no longer ideal for one to stay on as a single party. Equally, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in various other countries, on the continent. I don't know about Mauritania, but then there is agitation for more parties to take part in decision making. The point I'm making here is that it all boils down to decision making. If it's only a few people that are deciding what should happen, there's a problem. But if it is opened up for other parties to participate in government, in parliament, in a Senate, then at least you are getting closer. Though it doesn't solve the problem, because we still have to decentralize power to get to the various corners of the country so that the voices of the people in the villages and communities can also be heard. So to come back to a specific question like Ghana, we have come to that stage where now we have a multi-party system. Elections are held every 4 years. We have disagreements here and there. It has not turned into violence, since 1993. And we are learning each time and improving upon the situation. Now, I must say that just having a constitution to say you should go to the polls in 4 years is not enough. There should be a lot of education. There should be a lot of education, particularly at the district levels. And across board, I must say. But what it also means is that people should understand what is going on in terms of what does it really mean to go to the polls. It's different saying, this is your paper, go to the polls. There are some people who say, why do I have to change the government? In their minds, why do you have to change the government? Until a lot of education has gone through, because during election, a lot of people receive information from radio. What information they receive from radio also influences the way they are going to act or to vote. Now, you know my position already. I like radio, but when it is totally commercialized, I have a problem with it, because they only tell the news that will make money. They commercialize news. And even at this time, political parties have to buy airtime to put their messages on radio and on television. Now, if you don't have money, then you can't buy airtime, either on radio or in television. I mean, newspapers, few people are reading newspapers these days. So now some of the parties have turned to social media and other forms of informing the people. So it should not be difficult for people to just go to the polls and make a change or vote for their favorite. But we have a system where the political arena is more patronized. So one party is seen as a patron for a lot of people, for rich business people, for poor people, even poor people who have really not much to gain from voting for a particular party or leader, have to go and vote because the Constitution says they should go and vote. So the point I'm making here is that we need education across board, and education not just electoral education, but people should be well informed. Educational system should affect majority of the people. We talk about the youth in Africa being in the majority, but seriously, how many of them are well educated, either vocationally or technically or whatever? So if they do not have that kind of understanding of what it means to even be in a country or to be a citizen in a country, it is problematic. Look at countries in Africa that have gone through civil wars. Some were 10 years old, 12 years old when they were recruited into civil wars. Some went into civil wars for 14 years, as in Liberia or Sierra Leone or in Angola or in Zimbabwe. And if after 14 years, they don't have any skills, they don't have any higher education, they don't have any technical or vocational skills, they become easy pawn in the hands of the political powers. So they use them. They are the ones that are used mainly to cause violence. And so we must have an understanding first of the Constitution, and the Constitution should be well translated to all the languages for people to understand. Education should be across board, and that is where free education, should be a priority on the continent. And then we can move on to technical skills that will give people employment so that they do not live on patronage. A lot of youth live on patronage. They make money when elections are coming because all the political parties are going to give them money. But if people are well skilled, they have jobs, they have something to do, you do not need a whole 4 years to be in politics. You will wait till 6 months to the time before even making up your mind. But unemployment is very high, poverty is very high, illiteracy is very high, and all these give rise to violence during elections. That's what I can say for introduction.
Well, I learned how to use this. You know how to use this guy. You know how to do like this. Tapping with this one. There is under reaction. You can go in there and then see how to. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. This is really food for thought. You made me remember all kind of things. Justification not to have multi-parties, and also the importance of education. Because I've been to many meetings in Ghana at the Ghana Community Radio Network, where someone was saying actually the people, because they are not educated, you come to their village as a politician, they don't ask you about policies, they ask you for money.
That's true.
So you don't dare to go to a village even because if you don't have money to give away, because they don't really care about the big policies, they ask for money, and maybe whatever, yeah. So, but we will discuss this. These are very important things. So let's go to Uganda. Let's go to Brother Bichachi. Really, you are just, you are representing all of East Africa, So please go ahead.
Thank you, Gaba, and thank you all the other panelists. There are three elements that I think kind of feed into each other that are very consistent with our elections in Africa. One is that there are two clear cuts. They are either winners or losers. We do not have a situation where we can say the country has won because the election has happened and the winner is everybody. So it's a clear cut, it's a zero-sum game, and that creates, that makes it important for each protagonist to try and win the election. Because if they lose, then they are out. And because of that, the integrity of the election is compromised. The ones that hold power or who have bigger sway will compromise the election. We have seen that in Uganda. We've seen that in Kenya. I think in 2007, where the chairperson of the Electoral Commission said he didn't know who won. So that tells you that the integrity of the election is not there. And that's consistent with many, we've seen it in Zimbabwe. In Uganda itself, the Supreme Court has ruled 3 times that the election was shambolic, but, well, they can't overturn the election. So that I think is fed by the fact that the price of winning or losing is very, very high. The other thing about our elections is that they tend to be less about issues and more about personalities and about tribes, really, really smaller primordial issues and not the bigger things that really the country should be looking to. And so those are the 3 elements that I think we saw it in the US where Trump made the election, where the election was about Trump. Yeah. We almost saw Africa going into the US.
Yes.
But so what is the relationship between this and our colonial past? I think there are many countries that were similarly colonized, like Africa, in Asia especially. They haven't descended to the level that we have. They have had, you know, a bit of instability. They have had learning curve, and they are not where we are. So I think there is something about us in Africa that we need to find out. But if you look at Uganda, just to share, the very first election in Uganda that produced the independence government was rigged, and it was rigged by the colonial power. So you find that because the colonial powers, the British who were departing, did not want the Democratic Party of Ben Kiwanuka and the Catholic establishment. So they brought the Anglo-Protestant, the Church of England group with the monarch in Buganda, and they rigged the election because there was no election in a third of the country. So that started the process of rigging elections in Uganda, and we have not stopped. So I think in a way, for many African countries, the departing colonial officials had specific interests, and they tinkered with the elections, and that taught the Africans who are inheriting power that actually you can do something to achieve what you want with the election. And even where today we have, how do they treat the African leaders who rig elections? We have a president, I think the president of Cameroon, who is half of the year lives in Europe and is a president. So he only goes back to rig another election and then goes for holiday in France. And so I think our colonial past has, in one way, encouraged this kind of impunity with our elections. And because of the unfairness, it creates a cycle of violence. Of course, we have seen, it's been many years, over 60 years, we have tried coups as a system of bringing governments to power. It hasn't worked. Elections don't seem to be working either. So that creates a very, very bad situation for us. So what is in the short term and the long term implications is that I think our elections will continue to be marred by violence, and the faith in election continues to reduce. Now, if we can't have governance built on democratic process, we cannot have, we have tried, the people have gone to the bush, they have fought, they have produced governments which have not worked for the country. So it then becomes a dilemma for all of us, which direction then we should be able to take. But so is education a solution? Is education, is the media, can the media do anything? One, ideally, education is an equalizer. Education played a huge role in the independence movement because it created a lot of awareness. But the education system in most of our countries has collapsed. Or what we have, what is left of it, is really not a good quality education that can help build civic awareness. So it's feeding, the education system we have is feeding the old problems. In Uganda, for instance, in the past, education allowed people to study in different parts of the country, and that tended to kind of smoothen the tribal divisions. Today, that is not there because the education is so localized that people hardly interact with the others, and that heightens the suspicions and all the biases that exist. For media, so yes, education I think can help, but I think we need to look at our education system and see how to reform it in a manner that serves us and not the one just live with what we inherited. For the media, I think the media can play a role. The problem is that the media has become either captured by power a lot of the time, or has become an extension of the power play. And because of that, then the media fails to play its role as a mediator, as a kind of trying to create awareness without bias. So the media can play a role, but we need to step up. If you look at a lot of complaints I've been getting from readers in Uganda, is that our journalists, when they are assigned to a particular candidate, they become part of their campaign team. So then the stories cease to be objective. And so the media then loses an opportunity to bridge the gap and to create a better understanding of the electoral processes. So yes, the media can do, but the profit element, if you look at radio, which is listened to by 90% of Ugandans, it's mostly commercial radio. And most of it is owned by politicians, because to get a license to run a radio, you have to be politically inclined to the ruling establishment, because then the opposition can use that radio. So you find that the radios are narrow in terms of ideology, but also their primary focus is commercial, and then they come up during elections for the owners to use them to further the election agenda, and it reverts then to making money. So the media, we need to find a working model where we perhaps can have media that is not profit oriented, that is supported by the public through perhaps the budget. I don't know, but the commercial media is definitely not helping. The other, perhaps finally, I could say, what is the solution? One, politics has become the most lucrative job anyone can have in most of Africa. The rich, because it gives access to resources to steal. And also there's so much power around politics. So I think one way is to really have a conversation about our constitution and how power is distributed. Power needs to go to smaller units, so that then, and it needs to be made less attractive, so that then people do not have to die to get power. Thank you. Those are my quick thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pisasi. This is really good. I mean, before I move to Gamali, I would like, because you mentioned political radios and commercial radios and so on. What about religious radios? Where do you put them?
Religious radios have, they are quite apolitical, and certainly I think they are important. They play an important role, but then they also tend to shy away from addressing the. They are more trusted in a way, but then they tend to shy away because then they fear the backlash. We had a Radio Veritas in northern Uganda during the war, which was playing a very good role of promoting the peace process, but then it was raided many times by the government, because they thought by it speaking about the atrocities of the government, then it is supporting the rebels. So the religious radios media are caught in between, and they tend to prefer the safe thing to just preach.
Okay, thank you very much. You reminded me of Cote. I have his book here. Yes, okay, thank you very much. Gamali, please let's hear your perspective from more broader multimedia, including films, and because all these are media, all the things that, yeah. Please welcome Gamali from Scotland and Ghana.
Thank you very much, Garba. Thank you all for being here and for the contributions that have already gone. I would like to start to answer some of the questions. Firstly, the root cause of the problem with elections in Africa. And I think a good place to begin from is looking at 4 main characteristics of election violence. So firstly, its motive. What's the motive? Why would people be violent? And it's usually, intended to influence the outcome of an election. And the specific type of violence employed can take, various forms. The second characteristic is timing. So election violence normally happens temporarily close to both sides of an election day. And then the perpetrators, they are generally actors who have a vested interest in the election outcome. For instance, members of the state security apparatus, like the police and the militia, those that are loyal to competing parties, and then the ordinary party supporters, especially those who are die-hard staunch loyalists. Then the fourth characteristic is the target of the violence. And normally it is anyone or any institution perceived as the other and belonging to or supporting the opposing parties. So, those are the ones who will be in the way of victory and eventually the political power that those who are causing the violence are looking for. Now, for several historical and socioeconomic reasons, which the earlier panelists have talked about already, many African states remain poor, even though we have unlimited natural and human resources. But to proceed, there is a clear distinction between political violence and post-election violence, even though they feed into each other. So the causes include, possible perception of corrupted electoral systems, like some of the panelists have already mentioned. And then also disputed elections. But one of the main things is political polarity among ethnic and social class and ideological lines. These are very, very important reasons why people move into violence, because they see each other as, opponents, enemies, the ones who are preventing them from political power. So, like Bichachi said, the winner takes all mentality and the sometimes vengeance attitude of the winning party disenfranchises large sections of the population. And when people, are pushed in the corner, they push back sometimes. So then the violence erupts. Also, because political secession has become a race to capture the state using political power by one elite group or the other against other competing parties, political tenure is characterized by positioning of election victory through any means, including presenting opposing political groups as the enemy. The problem is also endemic within political parties as individuals and groups battle it out to win. So even within a political party itself, there can be political violence, there can be, election violence. I know that in Ghana recently, when the political parties were doing their primaries to select their representatives for the parliament, there were instances of violence, and also when the new voters register was being rolled out, there were pockets of violence in places. I'm sure even people lost their lives at some places. So that is also a problem. Now, the problem of reluctance to relinquish power and excessive use of force as a means of holding onto political power is also one thing that we see as a reason for the violence. Now, we all know that there are problems. Our electoral institutions are fraught with different systemic problems. These can degenerate into violence where people become angry that they are being disenfranchised. Some of these, include bribery and corruption, and these also, stem from the fact that, election financing is unregulated. So if it's those who have a lot of financial resource that begin to move to the fore, even though they may not represent, a large proportion of the populace, or they may not even be the best the best leaders for the country or the people they represent. And now, if we come to information and communication, we are in the era of misinformation, alternative truths, and fake news, and deception as whatever means people would use to win political power. And that, today is a very, very big cause for worry, when we are thinking about post-election violence. Now, is there any link between the origin of African state structure and the elections? I think that's been dealt with, quite extensively by the earlier panelists. But I also think that African state structure is a legacy of colonial demarcations separating places and people. Sometimes people of the same indigenous kingdoms and cultures, even people from the same family, are separated into different countries, forcing them to begin viewing each other as foreigners. And that is also reflected in how a country is separated into regions, and it can be the basis for people becoming strung up. Now, in Ghana, we have the state government, the local government, the traditional indigenous government systems running alongside each other. And from time to time, sparks of friction is generated within and between the various tiers of governance. Various regions are known to lean towards different political parties, and that is known to have developmental implication when it comes to which party is in power and where the development projects go. That is fuel for violence most of the time, because people get easily, left behind just because of where they come from and who they voted for. And so in all this, the role of the media is implicated. How do we present what's happening, without it being a polarizing way of doing things? So what's the short-term, medium-term, and long-term implications of this situation? In the short term, there's breakdown of law and order. There's resulting brutalities. I saw a very sad video yesterday on Facebook where somebody a laborer who was working on I think he was working on drainage, and had in his bag, you know, the how do you call it, flags and stickers of one political party, and for that he was almost lynched just for holding, you know, stickers of a political party. So the chaos, the disruptions in all areas of social and economic activity results in loss of property, lawlessness, further, and that becomes further disenfranchisement of sections of the population. In the long term, we can have protracted conflict like we see in many parts of Africa, and that leads to economic decline and further political instability. Eventually, there's low income and low levels of education, high cost of living, general economic decline and general mistrust, high levels of bribery and corruption, and a cycle of political violence as, you know, this goes round and repeats itself. Now, what is the role of education system and media in these challenges? Well, people can make informed choices if they are well educated, you know, and then the knowledge and understanding that reduces the fear of the unknown and the other. If we educate ourselves, then we can rise above the fear of the opponent or the perceived enemy. Knowledge and understanding of the processes and procedures of elections and political systems that involve equitable participation and, you know, what best serves everybody. So the fifth question, what is the possible solution to the political malaise? Well, very little research currently exists on the effectiveness of election violence prevention strategies beyond the general finding that strengthening electoral management bodies decreases the likelihood of violence. I think that there are many traditional African systems that have been discarded, like systems of reconciliation, neutrality, and impartiality, and the wisdom of the experience of elders. We can explore some of the systems that have worked. Africa has always had political systems before elections arrived. Some of those systems still work like clockwork and serve people in alternative ways. So why can we not draw on those, you know, those cultures, the knowledge that is embedded, you know, and create, you know, a system that works within the context that we find ourselves in. So I think I'll leave it there for now. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I mean, of course, you mentioned these elders and traditional systems. I mean, they have it in North Somalia, you know, Somaliland, which is actually has been the most stable since the state of Somalia collapsed, I think in 91 or something. But at the same time, of course, when you think about the elders, I mean, we have, you know, actually we have, I think, more problems with the elders, like the late Mugabe and now Paul Biya. So the dinosaurs could be also a problem. So maybe, of course, we have to see what we have and how to build on that.
We have to qualify
the problems in Africa.
We have to qualify
just quick, you know, look at the average age, life expectancy of Africans, and the average age of the life expectancy of the president. You know, it's very different there, you know. So yeah. So anyway, this was just a bit comment. We'll continue. Now we have Chanda is here, Ernest Chanda from Zambia. And then Mignot is here. Will introduce herself afterward. Yeah. Ernest, are you here? Because I thought you were here. Maybe you dropped out. Mr. Chanda. I saw he was here. Mignot, will you just say hello and say who you are?
Sure. Hi, my name is Mignot, and yeah, I guess I'm not necessarily in the sort of civil society space in the same way as I used to be.
Can you put your photo? I have not seen you for, I don't know, 10 years now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a hi. Yeah, so my name is Mignot, and I'm
Listen,
originally,
I
I
can't
am
hear
from
you
Ethiopia.
properly. Can I call you later?
Mignot,
It's breaking. It's breaking. Can I call you in about 15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Gamali. Yeah, Mignot, yeah, please.
I'm currently living in Denmark. So yeah, and I don't know if anyone has been following, but there's been quite a bit of news coming out of Ethiopia recently, especially related to sort of political tensions. So that's why I'm joining here today. So yeah.
Thank you. And you are crossing borders.
That's all I can say now. Yes, I am definitely crossing borders. So that's me.
Thank you. Is Chanda back here? No, because he was here. Maybe he dropped out of the system. We can, of course, discuss these very, very, very important issues you've been addressing, and then also in the chat there has been a lot of questions and comments about language, about should we teach in our languages, and also many people talk about education for what. I remember my kind of mentor, the guy who brought me to Denmark from Uganda, down in Abu Dere from Bale, from Uganda. Once he was asking, education for what? And then he was referring to people, highly educated, people like Senghor and so on, So, and also education in which language? Because Africa, I think, is the only continent in the world we are still discussing, is it really a point to learn our languages, use our languages? Or should we just use Portuguese, Spanish, French, English, and so on? So education and, education for what? Maybe if you could follow on that, and especially I think someone asked here about should education be in our languages? I know some people are working on that, like Kwesi Pra, who's the head of the Center for Advanced African Studies in Cape Town. He's originally from Ghana. So there are many issues, and then also some of the issues in the early independence Africa was that people were ashamed, our leaders were ashamed to have many languages and many tribes. No, we have only one language, one country, and one religion, and one leader, and so on. So I think these are also some of the issues relating to the inferiority complex that was inherited from colonialism. And it's still the same, it's still a problem, I mean, most African, maybe 99% of African leaders, when they talk to the nation, they talk in foreign language. So maybe, and the issue of money, like we discussed earlier, that the public also not educated. So when you come to visit a village or an area, people expect you to bring money. They don't ask you, to push some policies, but to bring money. And many people who are not very rich, they don't dare to go back to their constituencies because they don't have anything to bring, What else that I was also thinking about, the issue of course, the international implication and the involvement into the, like you mentioned, I think that like the president of Cameroon, he goes to Ghana only to rig elections and goes back home because all his houses and all things are in France and other countries. And finally, my issue is the media, because I think all of you mentioned about the media. In the past, we used to say information is power. Is information power or is it money? Look at all the rich guys today. The top rich guys in the world today are media people. They are not, selling diamonds or bananas or anything. So please comment on this, especially the journalists who have not talked, like Cornelius and Alfred and Vibeke. You are all journalists. So please come in, and also the comment and the questions in the chat. Amos also is a journalist, radio journalist from Community Radio Network in Ghana. So who would like to comment first? We still have about 35 minutes. Alfred, please.
Thank you, Gaba. I think the previous speakers have made very, very good points, which have causes of violence. But I also think that, governance is about fair share of resources, the country's resources among the populace. And where there is no fair share of these resources among the populace, that also creates issues within the populace. So if our elites who are educated and have decided to lead our countries would, distribute the resources fairly, then there is no part of the country, will be left behind. So the issues where development is not fairly distributed and some communities or some people feel marginalized, then they tend to, agitate. And that can also lead to violence, because when one party wins the power, they tend to look at just one part of the country or some part of the country without fairly distributing, development in the country. Now, before Gamali made a point, which I would also like to reiterate here, Africans had democracy long before colonial powers came to Africa. We have our chieftaincy systems, and our forefathers did not go to school. They don't go study or did not have European education, but they govern our societies peacefully. So why is it that now that our so-called elites are, have Western education, then they tend to use their education, Western education, to manipulate our people, So if our elites who decide to lead us, will tend to use their so-called education for the benefit of the country, the ordinary people, then there will be no need to say, oh, if this person comes to power, he's going to do this or that and marginalize some communities or some people. So we need to go back and look at our traditional systems and pick, ideas from there to govern our people. There's also one thing I have observed with African politics as compared to politics elsewhere. That is the use of symbols. The use of symbols. In Africa, when we have elections, different parties have their colors and symbols and personalities. We don't lay emphasis on national symbols. For example, the use of the national flag. So that creates division among the people. We tend to place importance on personalities and parties and this and that. But what is the aim of all this? What is the overall aim that we want to achieve? The overall aim is to develop the country, is to share the resources among the people. So when we tend to use symbols, then people think that, okay, this party or that party, rather than thinking of the national interest. Then the media. An example that I can give is from Ghana. Years ago, we used to have only state-owned media. And then this state-owned media tried to educate the people. But then politicians also try to manipulate this media against opponents. When they are in power, they tend to control the media, so the opposition or other divergent views are not heard. So the trend now is politicians go in and own media and tend to use them as their mouthpieces. Instead of talking about, issues that for the benefit of the general populace, they try to focus only on their personal interests or their party's interests. So these are all, factors that, create, perceived enemies, among the populace. So I'll leave that here for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Alfred. I can see Cornelius here, and then after that, Amos, I can see your hands. Yeah, please, Cornelius. Is there?
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, everybody, especially the presenters. But I just want to add a few things. From what everybody said, I think the issue can be traced to, one, the global economic architecture, which more or less is skewed against Africa and tapers down to the local level, the national level. So the inequalities in there also perpetuate this violence because politics is seen as the avenue to wealth. And you have to ally yourself to the powers that be to also be seen to be making it in life. Okay. And then, of course, that is mirrored by the state capture by the politicians who are into everything. I mean, like there was a phrase used way back, the capturing the commanding heights of the economy. That's what the politicians are doing. They, from media to financial institutions to wherever, they are capturing it all for themselves. So inequality and inequities are deepening in Africa. And that's why it's easy for the youth to be used during election for violence and whatever. So the way out is to have good leadership and employment, and most importantly, integrity in the electioneering process. Most of the time, the electioneering process is skewed in favor of whoever is in power or whoever has control of the situation. These are some of the things that easily lead to the electoral violence. And also for the youth, because of unemployment, it's instant reward, easy money, and a promise of a kind of a future with the government is supporting power, because it's not only about instant reward during the election. After the election, when your party is in power, you still get some crumbs from the table of those who have captured the state. So these are the situations that endanger the violence. And the violence can continue post-election once people are kept out of not just power, but for the economy. Because it's like, as I was alluded to, a winner takes it all, where government in power can even appoint the head teacher of a local school, okay, all the way to the top. So if you're not aligned to the party in power, it means you don't just lose the perks of power, but even you are more likely to lose even your daily bread. You see, so these are the issues that are promoting violence in our countries. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Amos, so please lower your hand, Cornelius. Otherwise,
I think I would allow Uncle Kojo to speak. Then I'll probably talk. So Uncle Kojo.
We talked about decentralization. We have to decentralize national. Like, come on. Especially you are representing community radio, 20.
Yes, but then Uncle, I think Uncle Kojo has more knowledge on that front, so I'll let him talk, because I want to touch up on social media and how it's actually how it's actually like playing a role, since today is the 5th, today is the 4th, and then Ghana votes on the 7th. And so I'll talk about how the role social media has played from 2016, and then also the role it's playing in 2020 and how it's going to influence the election. So Uncle Joe, please, after you.
No, go ahead, Elikem, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. So I was following BBK's question on social media and how it's being used in Uganda and whether it's shifting the dynamics of the elections. So in Ghana, prior to 2016, social media wasn't so popular amongst like the political parties. It seemed to be like a new thing. And so not every political party took advantage of it. Fortunately, one political party saw the need for it, and the fact that majority of the electorate were more in the working class and more of young people took advantage of it, and that's the current government in power, the incumbent. But what happened was a lot of the issues that was discussed or that actually played a role in the different political party manifestos featured heavily on social media. And so it got people to talk about it. So social media became like a determining factor on which political party could communicate more to like a cross and a wider spectrum of people, especially discerning voters who could speak to issues and understood what each of the political parties were offering. Now, fast forward 2020. So in 2016, that actually affected the then incumbent, and it lost terribly. Social media played a huge role that it created some form of voter apathy, especially amongst the working class, because most of the issues that was discussed there didn't seem to concern the party in power. So it was more like, we come, we rant, and that was the end. No actions were taken. People felt they weren't being heard, because we've also had situations where, like it was being mentioned, I think Alfred mentioned that we have politicians actually capturing the radio airwaves. So we have It's actually become a thing in Ghana where every time there's like a new government, they dish out frequencies to like party cronies and then higher ups in the party. And so it's even a challenge with us as a network of community radio stations, because frequency allocation is a problem. And now we're even being limited to a 5-kilometer radius, which is very challenging considering the role we are playing in development in our country. Now, fast forward 2020, the then government, which is now in opposition, has also started a communication machinery that relies heavily on social media, and it's actually creating a different dynamic altogether. The unfortunate thing is we've had so much platforms that's been created that we're now beginning to have a lot of fake news and then malicious information being put out there, which isn't really being checked. And so before any control can be put in place, the damage is like massive. And for a lot of young people, it's like one of the things that is becoming like a huge issue, because social media is kind of directing where or what conversations need to be had. So before one could say anything, information is leaked, no verification. Media houses are even falling like victims to like picking information right from like any social media platform, broadcasting it, calling it breaking news, and then they will now have to retract. And that is like a huge challenge that we're having currently, like in Ghana. Just today, I think it was yesterday. So in the last couple of months, like beginning of the year, Media Foundation for West Africa, in partnership with the DW Academy, started the fact-checking creating a network of fact checkers. And they've had several radio stations and media houses partaking in it to be fact checking every information that's being put out there. It started last year with a small group of people, and this time around the increasing rate at which information is being fact checked is a bit higher. Just yesterday, they released a list of troll sites and then troll platforms that are actually intending to spread like a lot of false information, especially in the last few days of the election. So for me, I think in Ghana, social media has caught on. This time round, we might not see that much of voter apathy as we saw last year. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been doing a lot of like media monitoring, heavily looking at what information is being put like out there and how people are consuming the information that's being put out there. The two major political parties have taken serious advantage of social media. The NPP, before 2016, the candidate who is now the president had close to a little bit less than 2 million followers on his Facebook page. Now he's hitting almost like 5 million followers, which is more than the main opposition party leader has. He has, I think, 500,000 less followers than the president. But he used to be on top because he was seen as somebody who was younger and interacting with young people. But then the dynamics has changed. There's a lot of interaction that's gone on there. The opposition candidates now, John Mahama, has done a lot of social media engagement on Twitter, on Facebook. He has like paid posts reaching like a vast majority of people. And he's made himself like accessible to a certain class of citizen that wasn't so in 2016. So these are some of the positives that we've seen, like monitoring the different platforms and then understanding what role social media is playing. But then again, there's also that side where because it's like easily accessible and everyone has, and there's no control as to what information is true and not true. We are tasked with that challenge of ensuring that we're not spreading falsehood, and then getting the Ghanaian populace who are actually very active on these platforms to be able to verify information before they jump onto to make sure that it's widespread. So that's like the dynamics of social media that we're seeing here. Talking from a community radio perspective, it's something that's I don't think the community radio network in Ghana has really taken advantage of, relatively because of their location and how inaccessible probably internet might be, but then I don't think that should be like an excuse, because we have a lot of young people now doing community radio stuff. I'm a young person myself, doing a lot of community radio stuff, but then we just haven't been able to harness that opportunity really well to ensure that we're able to use like the social media platform to project the lots of things that community radio is doing. So I think I would end the point here, and then if there's any clarifications, I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, I have a question there before I move to Mr. Yanka. Because here, I don't know, maybe I'm old-fashioned, you know, but I often feel that, especially here in Denmark, young people have much more access to information. But somehow I feel they are less informed than in the 90s when we were. So I don't know, because it's like too much information, maybe too much understanding or being concerned or action. So I don't know what you think. Do you notice that people are on the telephone all the time, but you ask them what's happening, they don't know?
So I think I would answer this from two fronts. Yeah. I have had the opportunity to have a lot of like friends who are not Ghanaians or not Africans. Yeah. And comparing the situation between my friends who are like Ghanaians or Africans, I realized because information hasn't really been like accessible to us. My mentor would always say that radio, a lot of people have radio because it's served as a bridge of the situation where we had storytelling in the past, where we could gather around the fire and have someone tell us stories. And so you realize that a lot of people have more access to radio than they would with TV. Now, because we're able to carry all that in just like our handsets, so a lot of young people who have access to phones now and are hungry for information, especially on this side of the continent, are always like on every available social media platform. And so, because that is where we would easily get information, and then the information there is kind of tailored to a lot of young people. And so, Africans or Ghanaians or Ghanaian young people in general are hungry for information. And social media presents that form of information. Also, the fact that we have moved so much away from television and then listening to radio, because now we have access to listening to radio on our handsets, and we've also moved from television because Facebook and all these other social media platforms provide so much information that easily break here and quicker than it would on TV. So for us, the phones that we have or the technology we have access to gives us the opportunity to quickly get access to this. But then in the West, I think because there's so much like information crunch here, we're struggling to get information. And so social media provides that leverage for us to get that information. But then I think in the West, because there's so much information and like information is readily accessible and one doesn't need to struggle so much to get information, the urge to continuously like be informed isn't really like a necessity. But for us, we have to go through a lot of, like, if you need information from a certain ministry or a certain organization, you would have to go through a lot of bureaucratic process, like applying to get access to this information. But then social media, in a way, gives you the opportunity to connect with a broad spectrum of people who might be in these areas. And just by getting in touch with them or looking them up, you're able to get that information, which traditionally is difficult to get. And so for me, I think that's the dynamics between like an African young person or a Ghanaian young person being so much interested in social media. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, yes, Mr. Yanka, please. You've been quiet for a long time now.
Yeah, I was listening to Elikem. And yes, I think that we've come very far when you talk about Africa, as a continent. Ghana has come very far, relatively, and this is partly because we have tasted almost every type of government. We have seen the one party, we have seen the two-party system, we've seen military regimes, we've seen a revolution, and we are learning from each session. But that doesn't mean that what is going on is perfect. There's still dissatisfaction here and there. It doesn't take a day to do that. I would say that society is dynamic, and therefore I would wish that we set a time frame in which we will review our constitution. See, the basic thing is the constitution. That gives life to any society. So if we, I understand the disappointment of people who think that we have copied too much from the Western system, that we have ignored our own traditional systems of democracy. Yes, I'm looking for an opportunity where there will be a constitutional review for us to look at how we can decentralize and get some of our traditional systems, ingrained in our constitution. There was an attempt in 1992 to get the traditional system as an option. But of course, the forces in 1992 were so dominant in favor of the Western type of democracy. We said multi-party democracy. But even then, within it, we could have infused another line of consultation about traditional leaders, decentralization, how to make sure that as many people as possible took part in decision-making at the local levels. And that's where I am very particular about community radios at the local level. All the commercial stations definitely are there to make money. And so they do not really, it's, who pays more. I mean, if there are 25 top companies that are giving them advertising, no matter, how corrupt they are, they might get off the hook. So I'll be in favor of reviewing constitutions. Those that are African countries that have not gone through our experience at all. And you can see from, say, Cote d'Ivoire, you can see from Burkina Faso, there was, when Sankara was stopped, everything went backwards to the old situation. But all these forces that we can see, I'm very positive that the youth, if they are given a lot of education, can turn things over. Because at the moment, the youth have become like a pawn in the hands of powerful people. And I said earlier that if you look at the age groups of people who are engaged in the violence, it's the youth. They are either unemployed or misdirected or do not understand what is going on, or they do not have enough education, or there's so much poverty in their homes, so they will fall for anything. And once you have a winner takes all, winner just distributes the spoils of society, distributes them among the few people, but even that is temporary, and that normally comes around election time. That's why I said some youth make a harvest when it comes to election time, so they love it because they can go to different parties to take money. But on the whole, access to information, as Elikam said, is going to be a problem on the continent, as a whole. If there are no systems to provide avenues for people to have easy access to information, it's only a few people that are going to have the information, and therefore those outside the information bracket will be left in the dark. And normally when you are left in the dark, there is social tension. And some people get violent because they do not know. They just follow any platform and then go ahead and follow any violent activities. But I must say that the solution, we are trying to find solutions. Across board, you cannot have one system fit all. As I said, some countries are now emerging from their one-party state. Look at how long it is taking South Africa to add on to many more parties. And every election, newer parties are coming up, which shows that they are getting out of the old system where you could predict easily that the ANC was going to win an election. In Uganda and some parts of East Africa, I think that there's too much concentration of power, you know, in the president. I have not looked at their constitution closely, but that is where the change is. I mean, if the constitution is asking for 2 terms in power, it should be very difficult for anybody to just sit at home and decide that we are changing it to a 3-term. For me, from my observation, Ghana has made it because we have respected that 2 terms, you are off the scene. Another person or another party comes to power, you know, depending on what the electorate says. So we need those systems clearly spelled out in the constitutions that drive the society. So change has to come there at the same time as we are expanding social benefits to, you know, the rest of the population that does not have education, that is poor, that doesn't have infrastructure. When you talk about social media, you're even talking about people who have access to internet, because sometimes it's frustrating, you know, to get messages across from certain parts of the country. So infrastructure will be big, all the social services will be big, education will be big, health will be big, social services will have to be extended. But more important, there should be more people participating in decision-making at the local level. And that's why I strongly support community radio stations across every country. People speaking in their own languages, talking about issues affecting them, including elections, and making them feel they are part of the country and not just an appendix. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have about actually 7 minutes, but people who have not talked, maybe just a little few words, you know, Cuthbert and Vibeke Mignot, if you want to say something before I give the speakers a last round. I have a few questions here, or 2 questions, just I would like you to comment on. But Vibeke Mignot and Cuthbert, if you want to say something. Yes, please.
Yeah, just a quick comment. This is very, very interesting for me to hear, because I have never lived in Africa, even though I'm African American, but I mean, that goes back 250 years or something, right? Mm. But the thing is that you can see it's very good to hear such an open discussion, and that you can see that these are the same problems that exist everywhere in the world too. Yeah. They exist in the US as well. Mm-hmm. And in other words, the last points about also about the community radios was a very, very good point. Mm-hmm. Community radios broadcasting in their own local language, I think, is then people feel like they're part of the system. They're participating, right? And somebody was mentioning that some of the violence in the election comes about when people feel that they're left out, right? And also was mentioned the thing where sometimes you have traditional ethnic areas that are divided up along borders between several different countries and things, and people feel, I can imagine, feel left out, you know, that their natural territory is not being respected, and that these political systems are not serving their interests. And then there's a continuous rebellion. I can understand that it's also very complicated if you have a large country, which a lot of, I'll make this short, I don't want to take too much time, with a lot of different ethnic groups, then I've always thought that it's very important that children learn initially in their own language. And that then living here in Denmark for some years now, I can see this Denmark is a small country. It's only like 5.5 million people, right? This is smaller than probably most of the countries in Africa. And the thing is, the children here, when they go to school, they learn in Danish in their own language, but then they, after a few years, like 3rd grade or something, then they start adding in other languages. So and then they can add, then after about a few more years, they can add in another language. So then it's not, because for a small child to go to school in the first year, they have to be able to connect to what's being talked about. They have to understand what's going on. If it's in a foreign language, then they're lost. And then it sets them back. So I think that's very important. That was also mentioned, the community radios, addressing people's own identities and making them feel like they're a part of the system. Then they'll have more trust in the system. And then the very good point about having the government consulting the local people that was just mentioned. That's a very, very important point. Consulting the local people and asking for their opinions and what can be done differently. And you need leaders that care about the country and not just about their own wallet. Okay, I don't want to take up too much time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really good point. Mignot, we just talked about ethnic groups, and you have the almost Amhara and Tigray are fighting. Because Tigray had power for more than 20 years, were 5% approximately, and now are feeling excluded. And so what do you? Any comment there about these issues?
So a discussion I've been having in the last couple of months have been there's a general sort of perception in my social circle, right, which is a very different social circle. Like there's several different kinds, right? So I can't speak for all. It has been that there's a silent majority who come from a family of people that have pretty much decided to be apolitical, right? So I've been raised to be very apolitical because they come from a generation where being political meant that your life was in danger. So you become an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, and you keep your head down, you stay out of politics because that's not where you go. So coming from that, my dad is half Eritrean, half Tigray, and my mother is Amhara, right? So, but we were raised as Ethiopians because we were outside of Ethiopia, right? So any sort of talk that we had about ethnicity was around sort of, you're Ethiopian, you're Abisha, and not necessarily digging into the historical sort of tensions that we've had. So for me, what I think about now moving forward is what has become untenable is being apolitical, right? Because I could sit here and ultimately say, well, it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, you're ultimately Ethiopian, right? But because there's so many of us that say, well, we don't believe in this, like, we don't believe in these political parties that are playing the poor against each other, all of these things. We don't say this out loud. We don't take a stand, and we don't take a stand for those that don't have a voice, right? So I think what I've learned in the last couple of months is there needs to be you can't be the silent majority anymore. So if you stand for some form of ethnic unity, if you stand for being Ethiopian or any, nationality of some sort, be it a synthetic construct or not, it is important that you take a stand. And someone like me who comes from a place of privilege can also see the lines where the politicians are playing, the poor against each other, right? So it is also my responsibility from the privilege that I have to step up to that. The next question is, how do you best step up in all these things? But reflecting on this, that is where, you know, I see our role going forward. So yeah. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Next time you would facilitate the next meeting. Thank you. You are the only one who has not used your voice here. Freedom of or human right to communicate. Rebecca, you want to say something?
Well, I mean, as you could see, I was really interested in the social media thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's also the reason why I'm interested in it in terms of the African elections is because, I mean, you're all governed by different media laws, and they all play a role in the direction of how the media is playing out their roles in different countries. Now with Facebook, they're working towards or within some more international or trying to be international laws. So it's like playing into the elections in a complete different way. I mean, they do have their editors sitting in the different countries. I heard the other days, like they do here in Denmark or in America and whatever else. And there's like saying what is applicable in the different countries and contexts. And I just find it extremely interesting that you can have, I mean, I heard the other day that again 2 foreign journalists were being sent out of Uganda because they were, I don't know, reporting about something that they supposedly shouldn't be reporting about. But what about on social media? Who is there? And how does the different media laws and regulations play into the field of the social media? What can the governments do? They can switch off the internet, or they can switch off the different channels. But really, so I mean, yeah, I just think that it seems like there's a whole new playing field in terms of how the media will play into the conversation and into the elections and into the democracy in the rest of the world and in Africa as well. New topic of discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vivek. Thank you for the perspective. I have a few points here. I just comment what I understand or what I take from this excellent panel. And then I want to leave you just to comment on one topic here that ticking in my head. One is one thing that I take here is that I think we all agree that education is number one, but it's relevant education. Relevant education, including education in our languages, about our realities, about our issues, and about history. That education should bring that up, you know, key. The other point too is decentralization from every level, ethnically, wealth-wise, generation-wise. I mean, if we follow democracy, that most African countries, 70%, maybe Uganda, even more than 70% are young people. So I think they should occupy maybe 70% of the power. But if you look at the average African leaders, it's above 70. Some can't even, I remember we had a UN summit here, the Danish queen made a mistake, had a big banquet party in the second floor, and most of African leaders had to be carried, you know. Paul Biya, his wife, and Mugabe, you know, they could not go up. They had to literally carry them, you know, just one floor, you know. So I think that you know, decentralization of power, maybe it should be that each region or each ethnic group, you cannot win election if you don't get a certain percentage from proportionally from certain areas, you know. The other thing is, of course, fair distribution of the wealth. Wealth should be distributed, not just grabbed from the peripheries to the capitals, you know. Then the issue of youth. UN has a term, they call it youth bulge. If you have so many young people, this is, they used to call it like a ticking bomb. Of course, now you can say it's an opportunity, especially when you think about many countries are getting old. like Japan, China, most Europe is getting old. So we really need young people. So young people should be seen as an asset, especially they are technologically the best, the one who can learn and can use and harness the technology better than anyone else. If you look at innovation in Africa, across Africa, it's the young people. And also all the good changes that you see in the world, political, social changes are driven by young people. Then I have one question I would like to reflect on, because we talked a lot about media. I mean, media now, as all of you said, media, they are for money. And the one advertising or one owning them. And now the richest guys in the world are media people, you know, from Rupert Murdoch to Zuckerberg, and also everyone is using the media for money. Recently, I have a student from 13 different countries, and they just made a quick survey about the role of advertisement in their media. The average was 80% of the income of the media come from advertisement. And even here in Denmark, we have that. So my question is how to go around that. How can we use something like public broadcasters or broadcasting systems? Because here in Denmark and actually most Scandinavian countries, the public broadcasters are very, very strong. So they can compete with the commercials and all the religious or the political. So they have very, very good quality, and they are paid for by the public. The taxes, you know, automatically they take from your salary, whether you like it or not. It's called license. You know, I moved to this apartment recently from another house. The first one letter I got here from the Danish TV, you know, remember that we will take from your taxes. They don't even, you know, they don't even ask if you like it or not. So how can we integrate that into the system that everyone is paying, so that the public media will speak for the public? And that also will add into media diversity. Otherwise, we live in what they call echo chamber. Everyone is shouting, repeating the other shouting, you know, echo chamber. So how do you see that? Just maybe quick comment here, and if that can be implemented in Africa. And then we can conclude. Who would like to start?
Yeah, I'll say a few words. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, please.
You know, in West Africa, one country that is doing that very well, although they're now receiving some competition, is Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Every state has a public broadcasting service, but there is still the privates. And I'm saying that they are, the public ones are getting so much competition from the private ones, but at least there's a blend. It's much stronger than in Ghana, where the public broadcaster, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, is now about, in terms of rating, it's about the 5th in the ratings when you talk about performance of television stations. And this is despite the fact that they are well spread around the country in terms of infrastructure, but the finances. In your case, you're talking about the people paying. Ghana, it's very difficult for GBC to go around and collect even what they call TV licenses. So you go, although that law is there, you have only about 30% of the population paying TV licenses. So the public broadcaster, you know, is suffering, and the private ones are progressing. So, but it's a good idea, but I must say that it needs a lot of conscientization in terms of positioning public broadcasters not as appendages of governments, but as public broadcasters, so that they will have even their own composition of their board should be totally changed. It should not be government appointing, although now we talk about National Media Commission. I think that it should be the various interest groups in the country that should nominate people as trustees for the country. But where you see it as an appendage of the government, then people find it very difficult to pay their taxes to support it. So that is where we have a problem. But in other countries where you do not have a very strong a multi-party system and you have the government control, that is also difficult. So until, again, going back to changes in structures in the country, unless the media structures are spread out in such a way that the public have control, it's either the government or the private sector who will take advantage of the media space and monopolize it and use it for their ends. That is the danger.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any perspective, Bichachi or Gamali or anyone?
I want
I think
draw. Sorry,
mm-hmm.
Sorry, Chas. Now, just a quick note on narratives. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I want to draw our attention to the importance of focusing on developing and creating an emerging national narrative. Mm. Our story is fragmented and sometimes too combatant against ourselves. So that makes it very, very difficult for people to even conceptualize patriotism as part of their everyday life. So we need to begin to search ourselves and search what makes us and use that as part of developing our national narrative. Things like, when I was in primary school, we used to have the national pledge, which we said every day. You begin to feel a certain pride being a Ghanaian with some principles, some basic principles, just because you are pledging yourself on a daily basis and you understand what you're pledging yourself to. So I think stories make us. The stories we tell, the stories we hear about ourselves and about others, that's what shapes us. We make sense of ourselves and others in our environment through the process of storying. We've told each other so many stories in discussing this topic today. So we make sense of our world through the stories that we tell. The question is, do we have a national narrative? Do we have a certain pride in telling that story in a way that it makes us not want to lose that pride? And so through that, we begin to forge a certain direction, as, diverse people with one direction. So that's what I would like to add. And also, the media which we can tell those stories abound, whether it's film, through music, through other creative art forms. Those are things that I think we should also begin to think about.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bichachi. Thank you. Please.
I think, you are winding up. Can I say something?
No, I'm waiting for you. Yeah, please.
Okay, so the public media has failed to gain trust because, like Kojo said, it is essentially a state government media, not public media, and because of that, then it ceases to play the role that would help create, that would bring the country together and perhaps create a narrative that works for everybody. So I think one of the things that perhaps we need to do when trying to reformulate the national broadcasters or the public media is to try and depoliticize it so that you do not have the national media focusing on the first story must be the president, the second, the vice president, the third, the wives, the first ladies, and so forth. And focus perhaps more, create public media that focuses on development journalism and very little of the political narrative, so that the politics is left for, so that then the public media does development features, creates things that are really above politics. But it's difficult to achieve that when we eat and live politics. I also want to mention something about the constitutions. The constitutions, ideally the rules, that would be a very good thing for us to use constitution to set the rules of our political engagement, of media engagement. But then where you have a situation where leaders or politicians think the ballot is a mere piece of paper that cannot take them out of power, then a constitution is just a mere pile of papers that cannot stand in their way. So education in the end is what perhaps will help create a generation that thinks different. So the socialization starts at a very early age about what democracy really is about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I have to conclude here. Even though I was thinking a lot when Gamale talked about patriotism and the nation. You know, I am 63. I don't know one word in the national anthem in Mauritania. Actually, every single year I forget the national day. It just, my wife was telling me that you remember that yesterday was Mauritania. The 28th of November is the Mauritania National Day. Because I don't see it as a nation. We have a collection of nations, and then one nation is given power, everything to harass the other nations, you know. So for me, actually, I never actually think about those things. Ghana, you have been lucky, you know, thanks to Kwame Nkrumah, you know, when you find a Ghanaian sleeping, you touch them, they get up saying, I'm Ghanaian, you know. In many African countries, we are not really our citizens, you know, we belong to, I'm a Fulani, you know, I will say I'm cowboy, you know, I could be from northern Ghana or from northern Nigeria or from Fouta Djallon in Guinea. So these are also, we have to work on this. And this goes back for me to the idea of diversity. We have to respect the fact that we are diverse, and then we have to live according to like the old confederal African systems. If not, we cannot really continue. So if you don't mind, I would really would like to thank you for taking the time and sharing this really useful knowledge, experience, and perspectives. And as I said, we will disseminate this, and I will write about it. And hopefully we can also discuss again, you know, if we survive the upcoming elections, and hopefully we'll survive them, you know, especially Uganda. You know, I just followed what I've seen Bobby Wine's tweet, you know. So it's hopefully we come out of this in one piece, you know, these elections, you know. So thank you very much for participating, all of you. Yes, thank you, and have a nice evening and nice weekend and peaceful elections. Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Garba, how did that go?
Yeah, thank
Very,
you.
very nice.
Excellent.
Nice.
Really excellent. Wonderful.
Thank you for the story.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you pronounce your name?
It's Cuthbert.
Cuthbert. Yeah.
Cuthbert.
Is this African name or African American name? Or?
Well, no, it's both my first name and last name. They're English names.
English names.
Like I said, I'm African American, but my father's family was from Grenada in the West Indies, and they use these old-fashioned, like Jamaica, these old-fashioned British names.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, yeah.
My mother is African American, and but yeah, it's people from the West Indies or England, they recognize the name, but most other people don't.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
crazy.
Yes, excellent.
But I recognized your name, Diallo.
Yeah, we are all over West
Fulani,
Africa.
Fulani, right?
Mali, Mauritania, Guinea, a whole region is called Fouta Diallo. Fouta Diallo, the Diallo region. So we are all over.
But the name is Fulani, is that correct?
Fulani, yes.
Yeah, because I have a friend in Sweden, in Malmö, that's from Guinea, and he has the same last name, and he's Fulani, known for 25 years.
Yeah.
He does storytelling.
Yes. I always say Diallo is like a Hansen in Denmark. Yeah, but we are all over. Actually, according to Kwesi Pra, is a professor originally from Ghana, but he lives in Western Cape in South Africa, where he runs something called CASES, Center for Advanced Studies of African Studies.
Okay.
He does research and standardize African languages, because many African languages are they come from the same roots.
Yeah.
Well, if you say Akan, there are many languages correct to that. And so he standardized them. And he said to me, actually, a few years ago, we are writing a book together, and he said to me, there are more than 100 million Fulanis, native.
Wow.
More than 100. It's not a small tribe like Denmark or Sweden, But we are spread in more than 25 countries.
Do they all speak the same language?
Speak, but with, of course, different dialects.
Right.
There are three major languages. Language group or like the Fouta Toro, in Senegal.
Dialects,
So actually, not even dialect. They are very similar, but it's just some little variation. Just like English. I mean, if you have someone speaking English from Jamaica, the British need some translator, to help them understand.
Right.
So it's like all the languages are like that. My wife is from Norway. If you go to Norway, it's like different. There are 3 official languages in Norway, and then the main language also has many variations, because the country is very long.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. But that's that's a very, very large number, 100 million. Wow.
Yes, right. Yes. And soon we catch up with the US.
That's bigger than Germany.
Yeah, it is. Germany is only 80. I was just reading about Ethiopia recently. It's more than, I think officially it's more than 120 million people in Ethiopia. It's becoming more
120 million in Ethiopia? Wow.
Yes. Wow. Nigeria has more than 200 million.
Right. Nigeria, yeah. It's almost as big as Russia.
20, yes.
Yeah, Nigeria is very, very big.
Yes, Nigeria soon will be the 3rd largest country in the world.
Right.
Soon.
Right. But with regard to the borders that came out of colonialism, right? Has there been any thought about adjusting these borders so that the ethnic groups aren't so split up so much?
Politician would tell you over their bodies.
Unfortunately.
This is the only policy.
That is how entrenched the legacy of colonialism has become. Yeah. So people have become precious about their countries.
Yes.
And so
some of them, I am not really. I mean, I prefer to move to Ghana, going to Mauritania, if I didn't have my family there. But Gamali, I wanted to take this up about the different colonial heritage, because it seems the British is more civilized, less violent and less clinging to power. If you see all those changing constitutions and staying forever, like Alpha Condé, and they are former French colonies. Mauritania, we have not even reached that. We still have military regime up to today. So do you think the French centralized power was actually more toxic?
Yes, I think what I take from the structure of French colonialism is the French initially never intended to in Africa. British, it looks like they intended to. The French has an exploitative, how do you call it, agenda, whereas of course, the English also had exploitation as the agenda, but they wanted to dominate even physically. You know, the French had an economic dominance, which is still there today, even more entrenched than the British, because all the French countries have their economies tied to France.
Yeah, their money is still controlled by France. It's the French central bank, who has 14 countries still. By default, these countries end up about, I think they talked about 500 to 600 billion euro every year is transferred to France by holding, the currency, the French currency that is still used in 14 African countries.
Yeah. So even if you look at their agricultural policy, it's very different from the Anglophone countries.
Yeah.
You see how do you call it, strategy towards plantation agriculture, and you don't find that so much in the Anglophone countries. So I think that the strategy of the French was to take out as much as possible and enrich France, whereas the British thought they could stay.
I don't know, actually. I don't know. From my understanding, also from what I read from Ali Mazrui, I don't know if you remember, from Kenya. He passed away. He wrote a lot about politics in Africa. He said that there were two types of colonial power. The British, they said that the Africans don't even try to colonize them culturally because they can never be like the British. So you just use the chiefs, like like in Nigeria. If there were no chiefs, or the chief didn't want to collaborate, they will kill him and create another chief. So it was indirect power, colonization. Like also in England, it's more indirect. You have the queen there, you have you have the household lord and all this. While France, it was really, they believed that there is a hope if you culturally indoctrinate the Africans, make them into people like Senghor and things, then they can become human. They become part of the idea of humanity, equality, and the fraternity. That's why almost all the African leaders during independence, they were members of French Parliament. Houphouët-Boigny, Senghor, the president of Mauritania. I think the only one who was not was Sékou Touré.
Sékou Touré, yeah.
So while the French, So let me just.
See, that's a strategy.
Yeah, strategy. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I was just saying that's a strategy to rule from far away.
To tie you.
Once the British wanted to be president, the British wanted to be on the ground physically, and the French, the French wanted to do it by remote control.
I'm not sure.
And they are still doing it. They've succeeded largely to do it.
I'm not sure. Actually, they are laying there. Actually, once I think it was in the 30s, a French minister cried because he visited a small island outside Dakar called Gore. And then he went to the school, and the kids in the dark, you see only the eyes and teeth because the classroom was so dark. And then the kids start to sing about La France, Vive la France, and sing about France. And then actually got so emotional and started to cry. He says, "This is too much. This is literally too much." And then, of course, I don't know if you remember this when France broke away from Guinea, when they run into a problem with Sékou Touré.
Yes.
The Senghor, the president of Senegal's reaction was, "Poor Sékou Touré. He will never be invited to Élysée Palace And also offered Bonny, actually, they say literally they had to force him to go and become president. And then once he finished, he ran away back. He came back to France. So literally they had to deport him to become president. He said, no, but I'm French. I'm married to French. I live in France. I'm a member of parliament. Why you send me to Africa, to die of malaria? And finally, I mean, you are a storyteller. You remember this Bukasa, who was this emperor of
Central African Republic
of Central Africa. When his uncle was a president, so they helped him took over, coup his uncle, David Dacko. David Dacko went to France, and then after that, the French wanted to change them. They brought David Dacko, and then this guy, Bukasa, was in Ivory Coast, so he couldn't go back when his nephew took staged the coup. Then he flew to France. He came to the airport. They said, you cannot enter. He pulled out his French passport. He said, I'm French. So just this circus, So it's really interesting,
the French policy, that assimilation policy.
Yes, assimilation, really, yes.
Yeah, so you are living even in Africa, but you are French citizen.
Yes,
and the colonies were proud of that.
Yeah.
They didn't want to let go.
No. So maybe just a final joke. They say that one of the most interesting thing about the COVID is that many of these presidents, they cannot travel to France anymore. And they have to end up go to the shitty hospitals that they have built.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they have not built any hospitals, very bad schools, very bad services. So now they cannot travel, and thanks to the COVID, block them. So you can go and lay in the bed that you prepared.
Yes, that's why they must behave when it comes to elections this year.
Yes.
Because if you misbehave and there is trouble, where are you running to?
No place.
We all sing together.
Yeah. Actually, so the COVID also have an implication that you cannot really
positive implication.
Give up power, because you can't go to France.
You can't go nowhere.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. Really, thank you.
Thank
This was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, Cote.
Yeah, nice, ready to meet you.
Yeah, well, thanks for letting me participate here.
You are most welcome, always.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, it's the U.S. history there with the people from Africa there is different because they live today with the stigma of slavery.
Yes, I know.
Slavery is going through everything, and still today, when it's in the background, and all that stuff where Africa, you can hear that instead of being in the minority, you're in the majority, right? So that makes a difference. And then but still fighting against the same colonial powers before. So, but I wonder too how we don't have time to get into it to make it sure. But also, China's coming. I understand is also coming into the picture.
It is
not just Europeans.
China is big in the picture.
Big in the picture now.
Yeah.
It is. But it's not as bad as the guys.
Yeah.
The French, the Portuguese were 500 years in Mozambique. They left one university student after 5 years.
Yeah, Portuguese were also the biggest slave traders.
Yeah.
6 million people. So from the early 1500s,
Fulani,
late 1800s.
We have a saying. We say there is no good monkey. No good colonial power. They only good farming.
Right, but you see that the pattern everywhere. What causes all the problems? A lot of the problems is greed. Only for your own greed, for your own wealth, for your own pockets.
Exactly.
And you don't care about the country. You don't care about the people and anything. You're like a monarch, a king that all you care about is yourself and your own greed, and that's it. And that's what you see this pattern everywhere. You see it with Trump. You see it everywhere. It's just this greed.
Yeah,
you don't care about anybody else.
Yeah. If there's fair share of the national cake, there wouldn't be
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And if you instead you invested money in educating all the children in their own language, and then later on, after a few years, they can learn a second language and things, you know. You invest in infrastructure in the country instead of just taking all the money and put it in your own pocket. You know, I mean, just in one generation, it would just be a huge change in just countries around the world, you know.
But you know, let's give ourselves the next 10 to 20 years. You know, the youth that is coming.
Yeah.
Things will change. You know, awareness is coming very fast, especially in Africa. You know, with technology, with you know,
the internet.
Yeah, and the youth are now very enterprising. You know, they're enterprising.
It's very nice that you are very optimistic, but I'm worried because I think some countries like the US are going backward.
They did. Hopefully they'll catch themselves now and start going forward again.
But Gaba, what I mean is in Africa.
Yeah, Africa, yes. Africa so far. I don't. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, of course. I mean, if you see these dinosaurs now, if they know they can't run to Europe, so maybe they get even deeper.
Well, I think Africa has a chance to really go. I mean, come forward with economic in the world. You know,
because we have reached really the bottom. So.
Right. Maybe the next step is industrialization.
Yeah.
You see, you get factories going and things, and then like China, that's what happened in China. You know, I mean, they were very poor until like maybe 40 years ago, right? They started getting into industrialization and they wound up taking up all the manufacturing because they were so cheap.
Yeah.
Right. So manufacturing and industrialization, but do it in a responsible way, so you don't just pollute everything and destroy the environment and stuff. You know. And then you become more independent when you can have industries where you create all everything you need in the country. You create it yourself.
Yeah.
The only problem is the way some African countries are tying their resources to loans from China.
Yeah.
You know, so that is one big danger, and that stands in the way of the kind of development that would make a big change.
Right. Yeah. But education is also the key to everything. You can't go forward without educating the whole population. All the children, everybody's got to be educated, but not just propaganda, you know. I mean, just education is basic things, you know, mathematics and their own language, and then maybe a second language and things, but just not to just brainwash and also in China, you know, they all this thing of they have a one-party system and everybody's being brainwashed and stuff, you know. But you want to. Education is the key to everything, and then industrialization, I think. But I think Africa is on track.
It's a little bit better. At least we are moving a little bit better because it was worse. So a little bit, hopefully, Sorry, I would have liked to invite you for a drink, but this
well, thanks. I'll let you guys talk to yourselves the last few minutes.
All right. Alfred, I mean, you can just come here. I mean, half an hour you can be here. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Gaba.
So much. Thank you.
Alfredo.
Yeah.
Dogo WhatsApp.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.